Hello everyone, this is Asylum Child, and today I'm going to be showing you the difference between vector and raster line drawing. This was a request made from another video I made from a viewer, so let's get started. First thing you gotta know is the difference between raster and vector. Because you see right here, it has new raster layer or new vector layer, and you're like, what the heck is the difference between raster and vector? So what we're going to do is, okay, that was pretty cool. We'll use that one. Okay, so what we need is, I'll just make this real quick. Copy her on there. So the difference between raster and vector is that raster is all about pixels, while vector is actually talking about the shape. And the way that we handle that is it can be a number of things. And you say, well, what's the main difference? The main difference is like this right here. You see how I'm resizing this? This is a rasterized layer. It is all done with pixels, although you can't really see it. The deal is, whenever she's small to regular size, well, let's just go regular size real quick and I'll show you. If you go regular size, you see how when I first brought it out, she's all smooth, the lines are crisp, everything like that. Well, she doesn't fit on the whole page, right? So I need to fit her onto the page to draw her. So, you know, I just want her face. I don't want her everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the picture bigger where it's just her face, right? So I'm blowing it up. I'm changing it. I'm resizing it so it's bigger. Okay? And you think, hey, no big deal. Okay. Right? Now when I get up to the normal size, see how it's kind of pixelated? It's kind of fuzzy. Fuzzy right here in her eyelashes and everything. You start seeing pixels, especially right here in her finger. See how pixelated and blurry that is? You get up closer, you're like, oh my god, look at a big old blurry mess that is. That's because this is a rasterized image from DAZ Studio. It's a JPEG. So what that means is it's using pixels, and when I used the regular, when I first brought her in, she wasn't blown up or anything, and it was just regular size, and it has a certain amount of pixels, like about 100 pixels or something. Well, when I blew her up, the computer, the program, it has to figure out how many pixels to make more of. It makes more pixels and expands upon it. So when it makes more pixels, it just blurs out the lines and everything. It doesn't make them crisp and stuff, and you don't want that. Suppose you draw something and you want to make it bigger, but you don't want to lose the quality. That's where vector comes in. Vector actually uses the shapes and not the pixels, so you can resize it. If you make it smaller, you won't be losing any pixels. And if you make it bigger, you won't be making more pixels and making your image blurry and everything. And that's what we're focusing on right here. I'll give you a great example of how this is great for line art. Because, now keep in mind also, line art for this way, if you're going to use a vector layer and everything, this is really good if you're doing like manga style or comic book style, where you want the nice heavy black lines. Otherwise, if you're just doing digital painting and everything, and you're just doing an underpainting, it's okay to just sketch. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this down to where I can do it. First off, I'm going to use the raster layer, and I'll show you. Suppose we want to ink this. Well, we want to ink this. First off, I'm going to make my sketches, because we don't want to keep the model here. We just want to use her as a sketch. So okay, so yeah, that's our sketch. Okay, Okay, so that's our sketch. Ta-da! Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, now, this pencil is a raster layer, because that's what it is, see? Raster layer. That's because we're not really concerned about making the lines crisp and everything. So, that's why we have it like that. Okay, so first we'll start off with raster, and I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, so we get our G pen, and suppose we're inking in this, and we're getting in there, and we start inking away. You know, we got our pressure points, and we got, you know, where we're going with this. And we just start inking away. Now, some of these, you know, if you're really good and skilled with your brush strokes and everything, this should be no problem for you. You're like, yeah, well, I don't see what the big deal is. You know, I can do that. It's fine. You know, I just draw on everything and get everything in the way it was. And I don't see any problem with that. No, just sometimes it takes a little more skill than others. So, you know, sometimes people can't be so quick to paint in lines and stuff, and that's okay. You know, you just take some practice, and you know, just whatever your style is and everything. But right now, the main thing I want to focus on right here is that I'm showing you I am drawing with pixels, meaning that these are all like a Monet, if you know who the famous painter Monet is. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm painting with little dots. I'm drawing with little dots. And that's fine if I'm drawing this size. You know, this size here. This is the size I want. This is the size I want it to be. And, you know, I don't want it to be any bigger. I don't want it to be any smaller. And I'm good with my lines. See, like around, I'm not very good with my lines. Now I can move around and, you know, get it to where right here in her chin and stuff, I can get here and I can, you know, get my hand in a comfortable position and turn the page, so to speak, like this, where I can get in there and just, you know, draw in the mouth and everything. But, you know, if you're not really comfortable with drawing with your pen tool and stuff like this, I watch some of my idols like, you know, Stanley Archer and Lau and stuff, and he just busts out the lines with ease. You know, he's pretty quick about it. But you see, I'm having trouble with her lip here. See, and it's like, I keep having to erase and redo until I finally get the shape I want, you know, and finally get it over here, and then I have to do her eyes, and, you know, and it's like, okay, and
2 hours later.
Trying to get the eyes in there right, the way I want them drawn, and, you know, sometimes it can't, yeah, it takes forever to get these in like you want them. And so I'm painting in this right here, you know, for her upper lashes and things. And, you know, sometimes you can just get it in there and sound like Bob Ross. Let me do the happy little tree right here. And sometimes you can't get your lines in straight, you know, and sometimes you don't want that sketchy look. Sometimes you see in manga and stuff, they got some of that sketchy look. Well, unless that's the look that you want nice smooth lines and stuff, you're not going to want that. So sometimes this is not the style you want, so you don't want to have sketchy lines and things. So you want nice smooth lines, but you got to work on your brush strokes. You can't just bust in here and everything right off the bat. You got to kind of work at it. And believe me, I've been working at it. There will be times that I will sit and practice my brush strokes for a long time. Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. Okay. So we're just quickly sketch her face, and as you'll notice, it took some time because I'm not exactly the best at my lines. But it took some time to, you know, draw on these little curves and stuff with their mouth, and they're still not where I want them. That mouth looks terrible. You know? Look at that. That is terrible. You go, ugh, that is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. They're crooked, they're all messed up, and you can sit here and you can try to get these in here right. You know, you go, well, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do that. And you'll notice I'm having to, you know, just go in here and then go back in here. And
2 hours later.
you know, I'm trying to, I have to redo a lot. You know, I have to redo a lot. Instead of being able to just draw, you know, sometimes my hand does not want to go where it wants to go, or, you know, or I don't make a line perfectly like I want to, and, you know, that's much better. But, you know, see how long I have to take that and really draw these lines, and then this is uneven down here, and that looks like crap, you know, and I don't really like that and everything. So you can redo it over and over and over again, you know, but that takes forever. I mean, imagine if I do the hair, you know, I just, okay, I can do that, and now I'm making sure all the lines are right. You know, if I want to make a big curve or something, oh, look, I missed it.
5 hours later.
Erase. I missed it again. Erase. Come on. Ah, there we go. You know, 4th try, we finally get all the lines of our hair right, you know. If you're better with your brush strokes, this is fine, but here's the problem. Okay, now I told you I drew with pixels. You can't really see them. It looks, well, that looks pretty smooth, you know, Silent Child. That's not very bad, you know. And yeah, but suppose I want to resize it. Suppose this is way too big. Suppose I want to take this girl's face that I've drawn so far and I want to make it, you know, fit up in this corner. You go like this, you resize it. You go, okay, and you resize it. And you put it in this corner. You're like, well, that looks pretty cool. I don't see what the problem is. Well, the problem is, notice that's just, you've lost some pixels because you made it smaller. Look at it. See that? And if you can't see it with that, that's okay. Watch this. Suppose you want to make this bigger. Okay, so you make this bigger. So you want to focus right up on her face, you know? Now look at it. Look how blurry it is. It's blurry. That's because it's had to add more pixels. It's had to add more pixels in order to make the size bigger, and now it's blurry. If you make it even bigger, it's going to have to make more pixels to make up for the lack of pixels that are there in order to make the image bigger. See how it had to think there for a second because it's adding pixels. Now look how blurry it is. It's blurry. See that? You don't have nice crisp lines anymore because it's blurry. So, if you want raster, that's fine, but, you know, let's show you what vector can do. Okay, so now we're going to make a vector layer. I just turned off that other one where, you know, I could show you the difference. Okay, now suppose we want to draw the same girl face with a vector image. Now, it works about the same way. I mean, you still got, you know, your pen pressure. You'll notice that it's kind of snapping too. It's not, you know, not going crazy like the other one was. It has, this is drawing with shapes, like, you know, like this, shapes. Now I'm going to show you this. I'm not going to do all of her face real. I'm just going to do some real quick sketching, you know. And here's the thing. Okay, so there. See? And it kind of snaps into place. I'm drawing with shapes right now. Now, the cool thing about this is, since I'm drawing with shapes, and I'm not drawing with with pixels, is suppose that your shape is not exactly how you want it. Like, you know, you're trying to do her hair or something like that, and it just does not curve around the way you want it. Like her eyes here. On purposely kind of mess up her eyes here. Okay, so, you know, suppose, you know, that her eyes are just not exactly where I want it. There's a fun little tool. See how that's a little off and everything right there? Here's a fun little tool right here. It's called Correct Line. It's right down here underneath the line. And you go Control Point. Now you go here, look, there's little dots that show up. What do these little dots do? These little dots allow you to move and reshape this line to correct little imperfections like that. Like this is a little too bumpy right here. We want it to be smoother. We can do that. See? Suppose this is out just a little too much right here. We can move this down to meet with the other line. Ta-da! Suppose this needs to be smoothed out more where you want it to be up more. You can do that. Now, this, you go, oh, well, so I don't actually have to make really good lines and stuff. No. This is just a helper tool. You know, it's still like, you can't just throw something on paper and something. You still got to know how to draw. You know, this is not a cheat to, you know, make up for your lack of being able to draw. This is just to correct little points like here. Where, you know, if you cut down here and you don't want it to be down there, you want it to be curved up. There you go. You know, this needs to be curved in more. This is to correct things like that. See? So you can actually correct your lines with Vector. And how come you can't do that with Raster? Because this is actually changing the shape, not adding or subtracting pixels. This is not actually adding or subtracting pixels. It is just using shapes. So you can make little corrections here and there. So if you want her lip to be smooth or whatever, you can, you know, and sometimes you don't want to make huge changes with it. I mean, you can, but it takes some time and practice. And, you know, you can make huge changes. Like if I wanted her nose to be really long or something, oh yeah, I could change that to be, you know, really long. Otherwise, you know, I can just straighten out lines to be. And this is kind of like a combination pen tool, where instead of having to choose the pen tool and try to make anchor points and everything, this does it for you all in one step. Now here's the fun part. I'm just doing her face. Unlike the raster thing, if we're going to resize, say we want to resize it and make it bigger, it takes the whole shape, even as big as I got it here. See? It didn't make it blurry. See how sharp the lines are? That's because it's resizing a shape. And I can resize it to be bigger or smaller or whatever size I want it to be. And it won't affect this because it's going by the shape and not by the pixels, so it doesn't have to take away or add pixels to it. It just goes by the shape. So this is kind of like the mathematical part, And the raster is more like the actual digital part. So this is actually painting with little dots, and this one is actually going by the shape. So here's another fun part. Okay, let's get rid of our sketch here. Well, I'll just keep it. But okay, here's another little fun part. Now, sometimes in digital art, you don't want the lines to be black. You want them to be a different color to blend in with like a skin tone or something. Go with a really nice little skin tone here. Let's see. Let's pick a skin tone real quick. Okay, we'll just go with that one. That's a good skin tone. Okay, I'm just gonna do some real quick skin tone with raster, just to show you. Now suppose she's this color. Okay, so she's this color. Her face is this color. And, you know, we tone it down some. Close to purple, and this is the shadows, you know, that we're using. And we got, you know, these shadows here, and this is the shade that we're using for the shadows of her face. You know, and it's down here, and this is the shadows that we're using. This is the shadow color. Okay. So we're using the shadow color, and, you know, everything. And, you know, like that. Beautiful! Okay, yeah, wonderful. Fantastic. Okay. Now let me just go in here and like that. Anyways, and you want the lines to match the shade color that you got, you know. Like this shade color, so it blends in with your picture and stuff. So okay, you go to the line layer. Well, okay, and you go and you click on this, which is preserve lock transparency, so it doesn't lock opacity. And then we go Alt and choose our shade color, and look, we can change the color of the line to match the color of the shade. Ta-da. That way, you know, a lot of people when they're doing line art and they want it to look more 3D and realistic, you know, they'll do this. And they'll leave like the eyes and stuff like that. You know, maybe not the nostrils. The nostrils are too dark. But anyway, you can change the color line. In fact, if we wanted to change it to red or pink or something, look, see? This way you can get in there and, you know, you can change the line. Even make it look like there's a bright highlight over here or something instead. And even change it back down here. If you want it darker, you can have this darker, and then it looks like there's a bright highlight right there. And then you can go into this layer, and then, you know, you could highlights on her face over here, you know, like that. I know that's messy, but there's a reason why I'm doing this like this. Okay, so I could do that. You know why I could do that on these lines? Because they're done raster, and you can paint on raster. But okay, suppose I wanted to paint on the oh, that's not. Suppose I wanted to paint on this one. You know, okay, go over here. Oh, look, lock transparency pixels is not available. It's grayed out. And you go like this, and you go, huh. Well, I can paint on them, but you know, I can't lock the transparency. And it's not, you know, I'm actually painting on the instead of painting the lines. So how do I take care of that? If you want to paint on it, you right-click on it and choose rasterize. And what this does is it takes the shape information that you've given and it turns it into pixels automatically. Now, if I want to paint on it, lock the transparency, and I want to make it hot pink, I do a little me thing. If I want to make it hot pink, then I can lock the transparency now, see, because it's been rasterized. And now we can change it the lines to be hot pink if we want them to be hot pink. But I'll warn you now, see, now that we've rasterized it and everything, you want to resize it, you can. You can still resize it. You can still make it smaller or bigger, you know, but look. Now that we've rasterized it, if you make it too big, you make it bigger. And say okay. Oh, look. Now it's blurry and pixelated. And why? Because now it's pixels. It's not rasterized. It's not going by the shape anymore. It's going by the pixels. So that's what I'm saying. If you draw any line art with raster layer, that's great because you will make sure that your line art is crisp. You'll make sure that there's the shape's exactly the way you want it. Like if you're drawing a girl and she has really wavy hair and you want those waves to be nice and curved and everything, the vector is your way because you can correct the lines with the line correction and everything. And then once you're done and you got everything exactly the way you want it, you know, you can rasterize the vector layer and then you can paint the lines whatever color you want. You can draw a vector image and it doesn't have to be black. So suppose we wanted to start drawing in bright pink. We wanted it to be bright pink from the very beginning. See, I'm on a vector layer right now, and I can draw like this with hot pink. So it doesn't have to be black, you know. And if I wanted to change colors, you know, lips to be blue. Okay, now I'm drawing in blue. It's still vector, but if I try to paint on it, it's not going to work out so well. Now vector layers you can paint, like I said, you can paint, but like say I want to make a new layer down here. Oh, my bad. Okay, and I wanted to paint. Okay, so we want to paint these lips blue. Okay, so you know, I'm going to paint back here. You'll see, you know, vector. You can. See, but if I try to paint smaller and stuff, see, it doesn't blend as well. No. Wow, I made a mistake then. Huh. Alright, goes to show. See, I'm not an expert. I'm an amateur. You can paint on vector. I wonder if you can combine them. Okay, so if you want to combine them, combine the layer below. Okay, yeah, it's still vector. So if you want to do this, huh? And see, you can still resize it, and it goes by the shape. Okay, my bad. Don't dislike my video because everyone makes mistakes. Okay. But here you go. Yeah, you can actually paint with vector, okay, and blend and everything. And what it does is, see, you'll notice it's still not pixelated, no matter how close I get. Look, see, it's not even pixelated. Now the lines and everything are a little pixelated, but look at the painting underneath. It's not pixelated at all, even though I resized it to be much bigger than the original. So the thing about the vector and raster that I'm going to just end the video off here and everything is, okay, forgive me of my mistake saying, oh, you can't paint with vector. You couldn't paint with vector in Photoshop. I'm glad to see that Clip Studio paints different. So, okay, you can paint with this. That's going to be a meme. Alright, so you can paint with it. The difference between raster and vector is that if you're going to resize something, like especially if you're making a manga or you're making a comic book and this girl is going to fit into a panel that's only like, you know, a corner size, and you want to make sure all the details are right, do it in vector and then resize it, and that way you won't lose any of your resolution and you won't lose any of your pixels once you rasterize it. But, word of warning, make sure that you have everything exactly the way you want it before you rasterize it. Because, like, say there is no undo rasterize. I mean, if I rasterize, poof, I can undo it. But if you rasterize and then you make any changes, you can't go back to vector. So once you go raster, there's no going back. You are stuck with whatever pixels it makes until you make any changes. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, give it a like, a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.